I returned to care for my sick mother. My father's rules were a warning. I am recording this locked inside my father's bedroom. The doorknob just moved for the third time. On the other side of the door, my mother is asking to come in. At least, sometimes it sounds like her. Other times, it sounds like my father. And in the gaps when she goes quiet, when the wood stops creaking and the whole house seems to hold its breath, I can hear a third voice try to match the way I breathe before it speaks. I still cannot say that out loud without feeling that it helps her listen. If anyone finds this audio, please do not come to this house alone. Do not call her. Do not say her name near a door. If a fragile old woman answers the phone and says she is confused that her son locked everything from the outside and left her here, hang up before she asks her name. I'm not saying this because I lost my mind. I am saying it because I spent an entire night learning that my father was not cold. He was not controlling. He was not cruel. He had been holding something inside this house for more than 30 years. And now that thing knows I came back. My mother was discharged from the hospital on a Tuesday morning. The doctor said she was stable, but she would need observation, medication on schedule, and someone with her for a few days. My father had been gone for 4 months, and I had not lived with him in years. I visited when I could, not as often as I should have. When she left the hospital, she looked smaller than I remembered. In the car, she held my hand and said,
"Daniel, you grew so tall. Your father used to leave the hallway light on, so you would not trip."
It sounded like an ordinary memory, but my father was the one who knew I had been afraid of the dark. I had never told my mother that. At the time, I let it pass. The house stood on a quiet street, under old trees leaning over the wall. It was a low house with cold tile floors, heavy windows, and a long hallway connecting the living room to the bedrooms. My father kept everything in order with a silent kind of discipline. The yellow hallway bulb stayed on after 10. The bathroom mirror was always covered with a white towel while my mother slept badly. Her bedroom door was locked from the outside during the night. When I was a child, I thought those things were habits. As an adult, I thought they were symptoms of an exhausted marriage. That afternoon, I realized that without my father, the house had lost an invisible order. The light was off, the towel had slipped from the mirror, and the lock on her bedroom door was open. My mother stopped before crossing the threshold.
"Turn off the hallway light tonight."
"It is not even on yet, Mom." She slowly turned her face toward me. The smile stayed in place, but her eyes took a little longer to follow.
"Then do not turn it on."
I laughed, trying to make the sentence feel harmless. "Let us get you to bed first." She went in without answering. I spent the rest of the day setting out medicine, light food, and clean clothes. She drifted between affectionate clarity and long silences. Sometimes she called me my son. Sometimes she looked at me as if I were a neighbor standing in the wrong house. Around 8, she appeared in the kitchen without making a sound. She asked whether I still had the scar on my knee from falling off a red bicycle at my aunt's house. None of it was true. The bicycle had been a different color, the place was different, and she had not been there. "I think you mixed that up." She smiled with relief, as if I had given exactly the answer she wanted. At 10 o'clock, out of old habit, I turned on the hallway light. My mother, sitting on her bed, raised her head at once.
"Turn it off."
Her voice came low, almost childlike. "It is just a light, Mom."
"Turn it off, Daniel."
The pressure in the house seemed to change, as if a door had opened somewhere else without the sound of footsteps. I walked toward the switch. Before I touched it, I saw my father's old room down the hall. The door was halfway open. I had not gone in there since the funeral. His bed was still made, the books were stacked, and the chair faced the window. I went in, maybe to postpone obeying my mother, maybe because some part of me still expected to find instructions from him on how to take care of her. I found the letter inside the nightstand, a brown envelope taped to the bottom of the drawer. My name was written on it in my father's steady hand. "Daniel, if she comes home without me." I sat on his bed. The hallway light made a yellow strip across the floor. On the other side of the wall, my mother hummed a tune with no words. I opened the envelope. The letter began like an apology. "My son, if you're reading this, it means I failed to explain it the right way. Forgive me for letting you grow up thinking your mother was merely difficult, sad, or ill. I wanted it to be only that. I believed that version for far too long, while I was teaching something to look human inside our house." I stopped reading. Her humming stopped too. Then came one knock against the wall. Just one, exactly behind the headboard of my father's bed. I kept reading. "Do not try to understand everything at once. Follow the rules before you look for explanations. Some of them sound like household care. They are not. I wrote each one after making a mistake, and every mistake taught her something. If any part of the woman I loved is still left, these rules protect her too. But mostly, they protect you." Below that, the rules began. Rule number 1, keep the hallway light on after 10 at night, even if she complains about the yellow brightness coming under the door. Do not argue, do not explain, and do not touch the switch while she is watching. She's not bothered by the light. She is measuring whether you will obey her voice once the house goes dark, because darkness is where she learned to imitate simple requests. I read rule number 1 with a knot in my throat. My mother knocked twice on the bedroom door.
Daniel, did you turn it off?
I stood still.
Daniel, the light hurts.
The paper trembled in my hands. The rational part of my mind tried to arrange an explanation. My father had taken care of her for years. Maybe he had exaggerated. Maybe he had written all of this during a bad period. Maybe I was simply tired. I got up and went to the door. My mother stood in the hallway in a pale nightgown, small beneath the yellow bulb. She shielded her eyes with her hand, but her fingers were open. Through them, she watched me without blinking.
Turn it off for me.
Go to sleep, Mom.
You were always such a good boy.
The tenderness almost worked. I left the light on. For less than a second, her face changed. It was not anger. It was calculation. Her eyes moved from me to the switch, from the switch back to my hand, and then down to the letter.
Did your father write that?
I had not shown her the paper. I closed the door slowly. Outside, she dragged one fingernail down the wood from the top of the door to the doorknob. Then she went back to her room without the sound of footsteps. In the letter, rule number 2 looked as if it had been written harder, the pen nearly tearing through the page. Rule number 2, never answer when she calls you by your father's name, especially between 10 at night and 3:17 in the morning. If she repeats his name 3 times, go to a room with a key, lock the door, and wait until she calls you by your correct name again. With every wrong answer, she learns who you're trying to replace. After 3 answers, she can dress grief in enough detail to make you open a door. My father's name was Enrique, and reading it made the whole house feel closer. At that exact moment, my mother called from her room.
Enrique?
The word came out perfectly, as if he were in the living room reading the paper. I held my breath.
Enrique? The light is still on.
The 3rd time came closer.
Enrique?
I ran into my father's room and locked the door. The silence after the key turned was so complete I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I waited for her voice to move away, as the rule said. For almost 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then, from the other side of the door, she said,
Daniel, you are in the wrong room.
My correct name. I almost answered. My hand was already on the doorknob when I saw another underlined line in the letter. Wait until she calls you by your correct name again. It did not say to answer. It did not say to leave. The partial solution hid the trap. I stepped back. She gave a small, quiet laugh.
Your father took a while to notice that part too.
I spent the night reading as much as I could stand, sitting on the floor with the hallway light coming under the door. Some lines I skipped. Others I read 3 times and still did not understand. The last rule stayed folded inside the letter, too heavy for that hour. Rule number 3. Do not place anything directly in her hand after midnight, no matter how small, urgent, or human the request sounds. If she asks for water, fill a clear glass, leave it on the kitchen table, say only it is on the table, and return without looking back. If she asks for medicine, cloth, towel, key, or any object under the pretense of care, leave it away from her fingers and step back. If her skin touches yours, she will know you still feel pity, and pity is the easiest lock to open in a house where all the others have been changed. At 40 minutes past midnight, she asked for water in a thin, scraped voice. I went to the kitchen, filled the glass, and left it on the table. It is on the table. As I came back, I heard the chair scrape.
Daniel, I might fall. Are you not going to help me?
I kept walking.
I carried you in my arms when you had a fever.
I stopped in the hallway. That was true. I remembered the wet towel on my forehead, my mother singing softly, her hands smelling of soap. For 1 second, the woman in the bedroom seemed like only my mother, alone, frightened, and fragile. Then the kitchen went dark for the blink of an eye, even though the hallway light stayed on. In a short shadow that crossed the wall, I saw her silhouette standing behind me, far too tall. I went to the bedroom and locked the door. By dawn, the letter had stopped feeling like a delusion and had become a manual. Rule number 4. If she tells a memory from your childhood with an impossible detail, do not correct it, do not complete it, and do not try to prove that you know better. She is not mixing up the years. She is offering you small versions of your own life to see which one you accept. If you correct her, she learns the true outline. If you agree, she stores the lie. Say only, I do not remember, and let the sentence fall, even if the blue wall of your old bedroom comes back inside your head. During the night, she tried to give me memories. From the other side of the door, she spoke about a dog we never had, a beach trip that never happened, and a day when I supposedly broke a green plate in the kitchen and my father defended me. Some memories were obviously false. Others came close enough to the truth to hurt.
Do you remember the curtains in your room? They were yellow.
They were blue. I do not remember. The door went silent. Then she whispered.
Very good.
I do not know whether it was praise. It sounded like a note being taken. The next rule was about the bathroom. Rule number 5. Keep the bathroom mirror covered while she is awake, using the white towel folded in 3, embroidered edge facing down. If the towel falls by itself, do not look at her reflection and do not try to put it back while facing the glass. The reflection usually loses focus before the face does. Sometimes it smiles while the mouth is still. Sometimes it raises the left hand when she raised the right. That is how I learned there was more than one thing rehearsing inside the same body. I remember the towel hanging half loose when we arrived. My father always covered that mirror. I thought it was so my mother would not be frightened by her own appearance during bad episodes. Now, the word rehearsing would not leave my head. In the morning, when the house grew bright, my mother looked tired again. She was sitting at the table, drinking from the glass I had left hours before. She smiled when she saw me.
Did you sleep badly, my son?
I did not answer right away. She looked like my mother. Messy hair, curved shoulders, wet eyes. If I had not had the folded letter in my pocket, I might have apologized. I might have hugged her. A little. She touched the glass with both hands.
Your father slept badly near the end too.
He was worried about you.
He was afraid of me.
The sentence came out without a change in tone. I froze. She took another sip.
Poor man. He got old. He forgot things. Locked doors. Covered mirrors. Turned on lights. You know how he was.
I didn't know. And at the same time, I was realizing I knew nothing. I spent the morning searching his room for more envelopes. I did not touch the bottom drawer. Rule number 6 was still waiting inside the letter, and I delayed reading it because the very fact that it existed seemed to weigh inside the furniture. While I searched, my mother passed the hallway twice without coming in. The first time, she hummed the same wordless melody. The second, she stopped outside the door and breathed deeply, like someone trying to smell old paper. Rule number 6. If she asked you to open the bottom drawer of my nightstand, leave the room immediately and take the key with you. I kept photographs, notes, and record from the early years there, not to prove anything, but to remember where your mother ended and where that thing began repeating her gestures. She was never able to touch that drawer, but she learned to ask with the right voice at the right time, and every time someone opens it out of pity, she learns another part of her own history. The drawer was locked. The key was behind a frame of a photo of me and my father in the yard. My mother had probably taken that picture, or something had used her eyes to take it. The rule did not say the drawer should never be opened. It said to leave if she asked. For a few seconds, that felt important. Maybe my father wanted me to see those records, but only before the house turned curiosity into obedience. When I turned the key, I heard my mother in the hallway.
Daniel,
I closed my hand around the handle, but I did not open it.
open the bottom drawer for me. There are things of mine in there.
At that instant, the gesture stopped being mine. I pulled my hand away as if the wood had heated up.
Daniel, please. Your father hid my things.
I took the letter, the key, and left the room through the other door, crossing into the small bathroom. The mirror was covered, but the white towel trembled lightly even though the window was shut. Behind me, her voice lost its fragility.
He ran the first time too.
I locked myself in my old room. On a high shelf, I found a thin folder of yellowing papers, as if my father had prepared a path without leaving everything in one place. Inside was a photograph of my parents when they were young, standing at the entrance of a rural chapel. Behind them, people held long candles. On the back, my father had written, "Vigil of St. Olivia, June, before dawn." She answered the call. There was also a note. We went as a provocation. We laughed at the old people who said not to answer when a voice called for someone in the family before daybreak. They said names spoken at that hour did not return whole to the mouth that answered. I stayed quiet when I heard my mother call me, because my mother was at home, miles away. She laughed when she heard her own father's voice. She answered once. Then she repeated her own name 3 times as a dare. On the way back, she slept the whole ride with her eyes open. The next page said, it did not enter her that night. It watched from outside, learning where it could fit. In the hallway, the handle of the room, I was in lowered 1 inch and rose again. Nobody knocked. Nobody called. That made it worse because the house seemed to be testing whether I still believe in distance. I sat on the floor and tried to breathe without making noise. My father had lived with this for decades. He had married, worked, raised a son, and grown old inside a house where every bulb, every mirror, and every key was part of a domestic containment system. There was no clean exorcism, no grand ritual, no explanation that made it easier. There was routine. There was repetition. There was a man keeping his family functional through habits I had mistaken for coldness. The folder held short records. One said she forgot how to pour coffee and relearned by watching his hand. Another said she asked why I was crying before asking to hold me, before I had even started to cry. I folded the papers carefully. My mother knocked on the bedroom door.
Son,
I did not answer.
I know you found his lies.
The word lies came with sadness that was almost perfect.
Your father was afraid of losing control. He invented things to keep you away from me.
I pressed my forehead against the wall.
Do you think I do not remember when you were born? Do you think I do not remember the weight of your head on my arm?
My throat closed. I do not remember. I said it because it was the only sentence the letter had given me. She sighed.
That one does not work for everything.
Near evening, with the house turning gold through the windows, I read the final 2 rules. Rule number 7. If she speaks with your father's voice, do not cry, do not answer, and do not say that you miss him. Even if the voice comes with his tiredness, the pause before your name, and that faint rasp when he took a deep breath. This is the only voice she practiced for years without my noticing. She heard my apologies behind doors and my low prayers at 3:17. If she uses my voice, it means she has already understood that love can be a doorknob too. Rule number 8. If she manages to unlock the door between you, do not try to convince her that you are her son, do not repeat your full name, and do not tell true memories to prove who you are. That is exactly what she wants you to hand over. If the door opens, choose the farthest exit, leave every light on, and do not look back, because when she crosses a threshold without invitation, the first thing she searches for is someone willing to be recognized. The letter ended with one last line. If you feel pity, she comes in through pity. If you feel grief, she comes in through grief. If you try to prove you are my son, she learns how to be you. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Outside, my mother began tidying the kitchen. The sounds were ordinary. Plate, silverware, drawer. That was exactly why they were worse. The house was trying to pass as a house again, and everything in it seemed to tell me I was overreacting. Now and then, though, an object made its sound before the movement. The fork touched the plate 1 second before her hand reached it, as if something were rehearsing the scene out of rhythm. That was how I almost broke rule number 3. A little after midnight, she began to cough. It was not a dramatic cough. It was small, dry, repeated. Then I heard the glass fall in the kitchen. It burst on the tile.
Daniel, I hurt myself.
I was in my father's room with the letter open on the bed. The sentence moved my body before my mind could stop it. I opened the door. The hallway light was on. At the end of it, my mother knelt near the table, one hand hidden against her chest. Stay there.
It hurts.
I took a towel from the bathroom without looking at the mirror. I went to the kitchen slowly. There were shards on the floor, but no sign of injury. She kept her hand closed. Show me. She opened her fingers. There was nothing. But when I handed her the towel, she brushed 2 fingers against mine. It was light, almost accidental, the kind of touch a mother would give to say thank you. The kitchen went completely silent. She looked at our hands and smiled with immense sadness.
You still have pity.
I pulled my hand away too late. For the next few minutes, nothing happened. Only my mother sitting at the table with a white towel in her lap, watching every gesture I made as if she had been given new information. When I went back to the bedroom, she called me by my correct name.
Daniel.
I did not answer.
You hold your breath before you lie, just like your father.
I stopped in the middle of the hallway. She had never noticed that in me. I had not even known I did it.
And when you are afraid, you press your thumb against the side of your index finger.
I looked at my hand. I was doing exactly that. She laughed quietly.
Thank you.
That was when the house stopped pretending. Sometime after 2, the towel fell from the bathroom mirror with a soft sound. Through the crack of the door, I could see part of the hallway and the yellow light reaching half the mirror. The cloth did not fall completely. It hung from one corner, leaving only a narrow strip of glass exposed, just enough to show movement where no one should have been. Then my mother appeared in front of it. I did not look at the reflection. I looked at her feet on the floor. Bare. Still.
Daniel, come cover it.
I did not go.
Your father always came.
Her voice changed halfway through the sentence. It was not a crude imitation. It was not a failing memory. It was my father.
Son, it is all right. She is tired.
My body reacted before I could defend myself. It was the tone from the late nights of my childhood. I closed my eyes. Rule number 7. Do not cry. Do not answer. Do not say you miss him. My father's voice continued.
I did what I could, Daniel. Now open the door. Let me explain it properly.
The tears came without sound. Outside, the thing noticed.
I know. I missed you too.
I bit the inside of my mouth and stayed quiet. The doorknob of my father's room moved. Once. Twice. Then it stopped. When the voice came back, it was my mother's again.
He cried in secret, you know? When you left, he would sit in here holding the phone, waiting for you to call.
Guilt hit like an inner door slamming shut. I do not remember.
Yes, you do.
The doorknob turned all the way, but the key held. Then I heard a short click inside the lock. She was learning the sound. The hallway light dimmed for an instant. In a narrow reflection from the bathroom, without looking straight at it, I saw a shadow seem to raise its hand before my mother moved. I ran to my old room at the end of the hall, carrying the letter, the papers, and my phone. I locked the door. I pushed the desk against it. The window faced the backyard, but the old bars were secured with a padlock. My father had installed them years before. I always thought it was excessive. I thought of rule number 8. If the door opened, I was supposed to choose the farthest exit. But the farthest exit was the window, and the window had been turned into a false promise long before I understood why. Now I understood that maybe the bars were not there to keep someone from getting in. Maybe they were there to keep someone from leaving through the wrong window. My father left me a rule for escape, but he also built the house so the wrong escape would not look like salvation. This is where I started recording. At first, I still tried to call emergency services. I dialed with shaking hands. When the operator asked for the address, I managed to answer. When she asked the name of the person at risk, I heard my mother on the other side of the door whisper her own name before I could say it. I hung up. I do not know whether that was cowardice or instinct. I only know the old rule from the vigil came back whole. Never answer when a voice calls the name of someone in the family before daybreak. A name spoken at the wrong hour does not come back whole. On the other side of the door, she dragged something along the hallway. Maybe a chair. Maybe her small body pretending to have weight. Maybe nothing physical at all. The sound was low, calculated, always stopping when I held my breath. Then my father's voice came again.
Daniel, open the door.
I held the phone close to my mouth. If you are hearing this, do not try to talk to her.
Son, I left one last part of the letter. You did not read everything.
I looked at the envelope. There was an inner fold glued to the bottom, so thin I had not noticed it. I pulled carefully. A smaller piece of paper fell to the floor. The bedroom key, which I had left on the desk, slid by itself toward the edge and stopped just before falling. My father's handwriting, there was uneven, hurried. If she uses my voice and you resist, she will try yours. It is not to frighten you. It is to replace you. When you hear your own voice on the other side, do not answer, not even in your thoughts if you can avoid it. Erase any sentence that begins with "it is me." She does not want to leave the house. She wants you to enter her place. The knocking stopped. There was no sound for several seconds. And someone on the other side breathed exactly the way I breathe. Short, held back, with a tremor at the end. And my own voice said, "I know you are afraid." The phone almost fell from my hand. It was my voice, not similar, mine, with the same exhaustion and the same useless attempt to sound calm. "I am you, Daniel. Open the door before she comes back." The sentence was absurd, but part of my brain wanted to answer, wanted to deny it, wanted to say no, I am me. And that was when I understood the final trap. To prove was to hand myself over. The voice on the other side began to cry the way I cry. "Please, I got trapped here. She's using my voice in there." The doorknob turned slowly. The desk groaned against the wood. I pressed my back against the opposite wall and kept recording because I no longer knew what to do with the silence. My mother, my father, and I are on the other side of that door, each one for a few seconds at a time, taking turns trying to make me open it. Now the hallway light flickered. Once. Twice. On the third flicker, it stayed on, but weaker. My father's voice whispered.
"Son, it is over."
My mother's voice completed it.
You took good care of me.
And my voice, very close to the lock, said, "Rule number 8, Daniel. If she unlocks the door, do not try to prove you are her son." She read the letter. Or she learned my memory by reading my eyes. The key is turning by itself now. I'm not going to say my full name. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to call my father. Rule number 8 still says to choose the farthest exit. The farthest one is behind me, trapped by iron, a padlock, and years of my father's fear. Maybe he preferred leaving me with no way out to letting me choose the wrong one. If the door opens, I will leave the phone recording on the floor. If someone finds this account, remember the first warning I left. Do not call her. Do not answer when she uses a voice you love. And if someday you hear your own voice asking to come in before daybreak, do not argue. Do not prove anything. Do not open.